It's mostly a record for ourselves.
Oh,
It's a record for ourselves, but we will also share it with some of the people who wanted to be in this session, but who couldn't because they were already, they had prior commitments, etc. So we will be, recording it. So then also very important, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And thank you for sharing the love with us, because that's what, to a certain extent, we feel we do through our books also. The love of reading, love of literacy, and just in general, helping to build those bonds between young children and their families and their caregivers. We're going to start with just a quick introduction of the Book Dash team. We're all here. So I'm just going to introduce the whole team. So you all know me, Dorette. I'm the head up programs and operations for Book Dash. We are a small team, and I know that you know me, and you definitely also know Zabe. Perhaps, Zabe, you can just unmute and say hi, so everyone
morning,
can
everybody.
Zabe is usually the bearer of good news, telling you that there's a donation on the way, helping to verify details, checking how many children per language so that we send you what's useful. So Zabe is the backbone of our kind of administration and many other things, many other hats. We are a multi-hat kind of organization. Then we've got, if you can just mute yourselves, please, if you're not speaking. Otherwise, we're going to mute you, not because we're ugly, but because it's a little bit disruptive. All right, then we've got Julia. She's on the left on my screen. She's our executive director. I'm sure many of you who've been to conferences would have perhaps heard Julia speak about the work that we do. So she's been with the organization the longest of all of us, 10 years, actually, perhaps 9, I don't know, 10. And has, under her leadership, it's grown to something much, much bigger than anybody thought initially, I think. Then we've got Zanri. Sorry, Julia, you were allowed to say hi.
Sorry, hello. Hi, everyone. So good to be with everyone today.
Yeah. Then we've got Zanri, who is our digital publishing manager, and she is as South African as we all are, but she's based in Barcelona in Spain, which doesn't really matter for her job where she's based, because she's looking after our digital kind of footprint and presence in the world, and working with all the organizations around the globe who are reusing our content in very interesting ways. So apart from just the physical books that we print and distribute in South Africa, we've got a whole different life, and Zanri is the mother of that life.
Good morning, everyone.
Right, and then we've got the latest addition to our team, Sherry. Sherry joined us last year, and since she's joined us as our print and production expert, we have been printing a lot more books, and with a very high level of quality, because she's very experienced in the work that she does. So we're very happy to have Sherry. She's the person who, in other words, makes sure that you actually get beautiful books, correctly printed, no pages are the wrong way around, or, the sequence is messed up, and everything is just exactly as it should be.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, good. And then we've got another limb to our team. We've got Lottie from Surefire Communications, who's also sitting in from a team perspective. Surefire manages all our communications and inputs a lot into our communication strategy and advises us on what to do and not to do and creates content. So Lottie is here as a Book Dash insider to listen to what everyone has to say, and to perhaps harvest some beautiful tidbits from quotes and things that people share today. And if we want to use anything that you say today in social media or in any kind of public way, we will definitely check with you first. But Lottie, that is the role that she's in today. You can also say hi, Lottie, if you want to.
Hi. Nice to be here.
Good. So those are introductions done and dusted. In terms of housekeeping, I just want to say that, yes, please, everyone is on mute, unless you speak and present. And if you have questions, I'll go through the agenda now, but we have different sections in our session today. Kate says, we can see faces and not hear anything. Okay, Kate, we will give you some advice in the chat, so just keep monitoring there. I think it must be a setting on your side. Everyone else can hear, right? Yeah, we get thumbs up.
Yes.
Everyone, good. Thank you. Yes, if you are speaking, if you're presenting, then of course you unmute, and if possible, please also show us your face so that people can hear where the voice is coming from. I will be driving the presentation because everyone was very good and gave me their presentations well in advance. So I've put it all together in one presentation. So I will click through. You can just let me know when you want me to go on to the next slide. So then just a step back in terms of why we are doing this today. As I explained in my communications about this, once a year, we like to get everyone together that we donated books to in the previous year, and just hear from you, based on the written feedback that you've given us. Hear some of the stories about how the books have been used, how the books have enhanced what you want to do in terms of your literacy interventions, or your parenting interventions, or whatever intervention it is that you're working with. And we have found in the past that it's incredibly useful to us, of course, because we learn every time about the wonderful things that you do and about the different uses that the books actually fulfill. But it's also useful for the people in the room to hear from each other how they've used the books and actually get a different perspective on, and perhaps some ideas about how they can next year use their books again. So it is about the sharing of best practice. I want to thank everyone for submitting your feedback to us on time, the written feedback. It is absolutely invaluable to us to go through that feedback and to actually read what everyone says. We use your words in a lot of grant proposals. We use it when we report to our funders. So for us, it's very useful on several kind of layers, or on several levels. And then the process for today was I looked at everybody's feedback quite carefully, and I then picked out a few organizations who either are doing something with the books really well, so it might not be that unusual, but their feedback indicated that they've got quite a solid program in place for using the books, or they're doing something a little bit different with the books that perhaps would be new to everyone, and therefore interesting to hear about. Or they might be working in a very specific kind of sector and using the books for something that very few other people are using the books for, but it is very interesting for all of us to know about that. I then invited those people to prepare a short presentation that we will go through today. I asked everyone to send me 3 slides. Not everyone managed to keep it to 3, but everyone did promise that they would not speak for longer than their 5 to 6 allocated minutes. And I think we will have to just keep our eye on the clock, otherwise we're not going to finish. Right, so just by way of introduction, I'm going to share my screen, and there we go. So can you all see my screen with the agenda for the session? Yes. So, and let me just do the present mode because then it's nice and big. So we're going to start, we're busy with the introduction and the background. Julia is going to give us a short overview of Book Dash. I think it's not going to be news to anyone in this room, but it is still, please mute yourselves, guys, everyone, if you're not presenting. Then we're going to hear from 2 organizations who use our books in ECD programs. Over the years, we have seen that we actually send books into 3 different sectors. The one is the ECD sector, the one is literacy sector, and the other one is healthcare sector. And so we are going to look at I think a little bit of each of those. So we then have 2 organizations presenting around ECD programs, then 2 organizations presenting about the healthcare, in other words, how books are used in healthcare facilities. And then we're hearing from 2 organizations that have home visiting programs, in other words, going straight into homes and working with families. And then we will have a discussion session about how books can help with family literacy practices and fostering meaningful interactions. And we will have Ububele doing a short presentation as an intro to that session as well. So I think without further ado, I am going to stop sharing so we can make sure that everyone is muted. Yes? Yeah, we do need to mute, please, everyone. Okay. Motshekwa and Sidi, I'm just muting you guys. Okay. Sorry, it seems as if I'm the only one who can mute, but then I can, when I'm looking at my presentation, it's all a bit much. So sorry for that. Okay. So I'm going to, oh, hang on. One thing that I do need to do is I need to share it so that we can also see, hear the audio, share sound. There we go. So now we all sorted for when we go back. All right. Julia, over to you to do our introduction about and an overview of Book Dash.
Great. Got 5 minutes, so it's good practice for future conferences where I get given 5 minutes. But no, welcome everyone, and thanks for that intro, Dorette. As Dorette said, for many of you, this won't be new, so I'm going to cover the key points. Some for new partners, sometimes you don't know the kind of bigger picture behind why we provide you with hundreds, if not thousands of books once a year. So yeah, Book Dash was started about 10 years ago, and we see ourselves as a social impact publisher. We publish specifically only open licensed African picture books for young children, the kind of preschool market. That's all we do, and we like to see ourselves as experts in that. That aligns with and kind of stems from our vision that every child should own 100 books by the age of 5. So that's what we're trying to work towards. All of our systems, all of our processes, designs, partners is in aid of that vision, all children owning 100 books by the age of 5. And so to that end, we gather creative volunteers. They make and publish and create the new African storybooks that you know very well. And importantly, those are books that anyone can freely print, translate, and distribute. And then we work with partners, like you, to give those books to preschool children to own. The very important part of what we do is the ownership, as you'll know. And how we see that kind of contributing to the world and what our goal is through all of those efforts is to support family literacy practices and early development by increasing preschool children's ownership of, importantly for us, they need to be engaging and open licensed African storybooks. And then so to get our homes into to get our books into homes across the country, we forge strong partnerships, and we actively look for organizations like yourselves that are already working with young children and their families. And they tend to span the early literacy, the early childhood development, and the health sectors. So you'll probably be able to classify yourself into one of those broad brushstroke buckets. Next, good. Why is a good question to ask oneself. Before Book Dash started, but also in the 10 years since, there's been an incredible amount of research done on the benefits of owning books from a very young age, ideally birth, definitely preschool age. And we've got a lot of research on this. If you are interested in this, or if you're needing more content to back up, you know, if you're doing proposals or anything like that, just shout. But to put it into a nutshell, owning books, and especially if they are then shared with the loved ones in a child's life, and the earlier it can happen, is shown to that children are more likely to develop socio-emotional skills like empathy and resilience, kindness, courage, all those kind of things. Their cognitive skills are improved, so they're more likely to do better at school in numeracy and literacy and further subjects across the curriculum later on in school, as well as in the early years. They're also more likely to be healthier and happier children. They have shown to have better mental well-being, better self-esteem, which is incredible. And they're also more likely to be creative, which is a fascinating skill to be able to give to a child, more likely to overcome disadvantages and have better economic prospects. All of that from, starting with the tool that is a book. But why Book Dash exists is that in South Africa, about 70% of children under 10 don't own a single book before they entered school. And so studies show that learning inequality is cemented in the first 5 years of a child's life. And so that's why we need to get books to children before they enter school. It's not good enough to wait until they're in grade 1. And then the other aspect of why this is so important, why it's a kind of national level concern, and we need to do something about it quite urgently, is that low literacy levels carry a huge cost to the economy, and increasing the number of books that kids own before they enter school has shown to be a really high impact and low cost way of addressing and giving a child a boost in terms of their foundational literacy and then their later literacy acquisition. And then just as a kind of bringing you into the picture again, we have a policy of considered distribution Book Dash. So while we want every child to own many books and we have big goals and we've distributed over 3.5 million books to date, we don't just want to send them anywhere. We want to look for partners who will distribute them meaningfully and responsibly. So each month we look at every single application that is submitted to Book Dash. All of yours would have come through that process, and we only approve partners or onboard partners into our network that align with our vision and that align with our selection criteria, so that we can make sure we are being considered and focused. So that's why we very strictly focused on preschool focused organizations, or at least have an element of children under 5 or 5 or under, that are on board or understand the book ownership concept. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but at least are willing to understand that we're going to send thousands of books and we want you to get them to each child to own. And yeah, aspects like that are criteria. We do require all partners to report to us. We're sending you books at no cost to you. You're adding value by getting them out, but we have to report back on those, and we need to know that they're being used responsibly. So we do have a process of retiring partners who are unresponsive, but that doesn't apply to you because you're all here. And we also aim to send each child in our network books every year to own, to slowly build up a home library. And in 2023, which we're looking at today, reporting on, we had 115,000 children in our network across all of our partners around the country. And we were able to print 230,000 books for the purposes of this partner network in particular. And that meant we could send every child 2 books, a home language, a gridless book. And so we hope that it has brought a lot of value to the work that you do. And one of our partners said that the Book Dash has brought change into my school to encourage children to read, because you can't tell parents to read for kids when they don't have books. So that is how we have landed up here today. And I honestly cannot wait to hear from each of you about why we add value, because that is all that we hope to do. And we only do the first kind of part of it, and then you take it home. And we appreciate that to no end.
Thank you, Julia, for that introduction. And I hope you also love the photographs that are interspersed everywhere. It's photographs that you've sent in, and that really also help us to really see the context into which the books go and into which and where they're used. It makes it very real to us, because we don't actually work directly with the children or the teachers or the families. So the photographs are like a proxy for us to see the beautiful children with our books. Right, so without further ado, we're going on to our first presentation. We're going to hear from Lesedi Educare, and we've got Chidi and Mochekwa. I know you're both here, so you're welcome to unmute, and if you can, also show your camera so that we can see who you are, and we can then hear what you have to say to us. I will, in fact, sorry, I'll just click through to the next. There we go. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, yes.
Unmute, how do you unmute? Thank you so.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, unmute, it's fine.
Start again.
Harrison, how
Yes,
to-
you can
Alright.
start.
Okay, hi everyone. It's Sidi from Lesedi, the acting coordinator of the ECD team. As moderator has already shared the screen with us, we as the trainers, we teach the practitioners how to use the books while reading for their children, because they are the ones who are working with the children at the ECD centers. So now I'm going to take a little bit of points to discuss on, like how do you use, we choose the weightless book because we think it's age appropriate for each and every child from their early age until school readiness. So we choose the weightless book, and then our question is how you use the weightless book with your children. You start by looking at the cover of the book and then ask the children to give their inputs of what they can see while looking at the cover page of the book, and then you read the title of the book to the child so that it gives the child the meaning, the understanding of what the book is all about. And then you take a picture walk with the child so that the child can go through the pictures in the book and then can have the access to tell their own stories. And then you encourage your child to taking a turn telling their own version of the story, what they can say about the pictures in the book. And then you ask the questions about the book, what the children can say, what did they learn, and what is their vision, what they are thinking will happen in future when extending their understanding. Medoret, can you please help with the slides? All right, there we go. We had the importance of reading the wordless book with the children. Why specifically use the wordless book with the children? It helped the child to develop the language and vocabulary in the early stages, because we know most of the ECD centers, even at homes, parents use baby language when talking to the children, so it delays their vocabulary. But the use of wordless book can make the child to develop a vocabulary and learn about the language. It leads to more complex conversation so that the child can be able to communicate with a peer or practitioner or anyone at home. It builds the confidence of early readers and reluctant readers. As we know, not all of us we have the love of reading. So this wordless book will help everyone, even the older person, to have a love, to have the passion of reading the book. And then it is, like I've said, it is all age appropriate. It can be used by anyone. And then the child can create their own story by just looking at the pictures in the book. It also reinforces the idea of connecting the pictures to connecting the story and the pictures, to making sure that the story and pictures are connected, because we sometimes get lost. Like, even for an example, if the child is counting, can count, but when you use the object, the child can't count using the object. The same applies to the book. If the story is not connected together, then the child will get a mixed information. She can't create her own proper story. She can't tell the proper story when the pictures are not connected accordingly. And then we got the things to consider when using the wordless book. It supports the child's thinking with pictures in the book, and you have to sequence the event in the plot. Think about the colors and the mood. The child, how's the child the day when the child is reading the book. And remember, we don't use the dark colors with the children because it dooms the child mind. So we have to make sure that our pictures are bright, are colorful, so that it
Increases.
yes, it praises the child, it makes the child to get the love of reading, could get interested of using the book. It also allows the child to ask questions and speak to each other. So the child is developing vocabulary and language while speaking to the peers. And then what the child benefit from reading a wordless book. So that we do co-facilitate this presentation.
Okay, what the child develops. Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is Motseha. I'm a mobile facilitator, playgroup facilitator. What child benefits from reading a wordless book? First, it develops language growth. measures literacy and reading achievements for the child. It develops the child in totality so that we can see if the child is growing well, whether he understands the book or not, the words we are saying with the book. Eye-hand coordination. Is the child willing? Is the child seeing well with is the child, does the child sees the book well? Muscle, small muscles, e.g., paging a book. Can a child page the book well? Their senses, sight and touch. Can a child sense the book? Can he see the sight of the child? Emotional, learn about sympathy and empathy. Shows express their feelings. If the child is reading the book, can the child shows expression? Does the child enjoys the book? If the child is reading the book, develop imaginary and thinking skill. Can a child imagine more than what is written in the book? Problem solving. Can a child solve? Develop language vocabulary so that it can child, as Lesedi has already said, that the language development, we come from different places. So we just want to see if the child is developing language and vocabulary.
And to add on that, according to the question Medoret, that do you think that Book Dash have helped the children to strengthen family literacies practice is whereby a meaningful interaction between family members where you include the parents, the siblings, the grandparents, and then thereby nurturing not only literacy skills, but also emotional bond. It's whereby we tell that the child will develop emotionally, the child will learn about the sympathy and empathy. I think in that part we answered the question of the emotional bond with the child. Yes, if you can continue.
Yeah, I think
Right,
that's the
next
last
slide.
slide. Yes.
Alright.
Because that is wonderfly timed. It's exactly 6 minutes that you gave us with the core of the wordless books. I think we hear this very often in the feedback from partners is how useful the wordless books are. I think you've touched on so many benefits, and sometimes the one thing that I just wanted to share was sometimes we hear from partners that the parents are so surprised by the fact that their children have these rich, like, imaginations, and they can make up stories, and they, and parents don't always realize that children, very young children even, have this capacity. So it's wonderful that the books are a tool to kind of unleash so many different things like you've highlighted for us. That's wonderful.
So that's where we involve our parents in in the sessions, like in the ECD centers, in the play groups, as the lady has said. That's where we involve the parents by the read aloud days. Okay, the parents will come to the play group, joined to read, help to the practitioners to read the books for the children. We also use the hanging and landing libraries in our mobiles and ECD centers, the books from Book Dash, so that the parents can be able to take books with their children to home and read with their children at their home. That's where they connect with the child. And then at the centers, we use the hanging libraries so that the children will be able to also read while they are in the program. That's how we involve our parents. Thank
Yes,
you.
parental involvement is absolutely key. Well done for getting that right. Okay, if there are any questions or comments for our presenters from Lesedi, people are welcome to put them in the chat in the meantime, because we're just going to hear from our second organization presenting on the books in the ECDs, and then I'll stop the screen share. We can then have a little session of Q&A if there are any questions and comments. But thank you very much for that presentation. Okay, now we're going on to Masicorp with Kolosa and Vicky, who are going to take us through their presentation.
Morning. You're speaking to Kolosa Bangani. I currently work as an administrator for Masicorp, for one of Masicorp's ECD centers called Lesedi Educare. So Masicorp has 3 ECD centers and a total of 389 children that benefit from our ECD centers. Next slide, please. So Masicorp is a non-profit organization working in Masiphumelele, Cape Town. We've got more than 4,000 people benefiting from Masicorp's education programs each year. And about 750 of these residents are children under the age of 6 years, either attending one of our 3 ECD centers or an informal creche in the community. Next slide, please. So Masicorp signed up with Book Dash back in 2018, requesting a donation of books, which could be given to the children in our education programs. At that stage, the children would read the books during school, but not be able to take any books home with them. And then over the years, next slide, please. Oh, sorry, thank you. Then over the years, Book Dash has partnered with Masicorp, ensuring that all our ECD children can receive at least 2 books a year to keep and take home. Next slide, please. Sorry. For the previous slide, this has worked out to be about 1,300 books, Book Dash books per year since 2019, donated by Book Dash. And so in recent years, we've been able to gift our children another 2 Book Dash books, as well as a book bag that is funded by a long-standing partner, Stitching Ibongo, from the Netherlands, with a passion for education and reading. So these books are purchased from Book Dash in addition to the donated books that we receive from you guys, that the children receive. This means that then each child would receive 4 books a year and a little bag to store their books in, which is a very lovely bag if you've seen it. So we hope that at least when each child graduates from our centers and goes to grade 1, they would have at least received 12 books of their very own. And then our children are very familiar with Book Dash books. On World Read Aloud Day, which was last week, the community library assistants read a Book Dash book to our grade R kids, which are very familiar with the Book Dash books, which was very lovely as they enjoyed the story and they participated more because they were very familiar with the book, which is lovely. And then this year in 2024, we will be giving away at least 2,000 Book Dash books to our kids. Okay. So before sending the books home, the children read the books with their teachers to familiarize themselves with the story and also to learn to look after their books. And then once they take it home, they can then read the books to or with their parents, which is lovely because then the parents gets to participate as well. And then this is important part of a book gift process, which is encouraging the joy of reading and parental involvement. Next slide, please. During COVID, we know that COVID hit us very hard. So during COVID, thanks to the wonderful support of Book Dash, we were able to include books in our monthly support packs given to our children at our centers so that learning could continue during lockdown. So the books were given in a pack, which included crayons, worksheets, grocery vouchers, and a meal pack. We received so many videos from our parents of our children reading their cherished Book Dash books during lockdown. So on the next slide, we're going to see a few clips of our children reading their Book Dash books.
Sister, a baby sleeping. Shh. Brother, a baby sleeping. Shh. Stop! Baby is sleeping. Baby is sleeping.
The end. So those were our beautiful students during lockdown, and they were reading their cherished books. So thank you so much, Book Dash, for the priceless gifts. We appreciate them, and so do our students and parents. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Kolosa. I love those videos. Isn't it just wonderful? Baby is sleeping. That is a very popular title in many of our for many of our partners, because I think everyone can identify with a young baby in the house and how the parents try to protect the baby's sleep. So I want to thank both those organizations for the presentations and for sticking very nicely to the time limits and giving us the essence of your work with the Book Dash books. Julia, is there anything in the chat that you'd like to highlight before we move on to questions?
Yeah, we don't have no questions, just a lot of positive feedback for both projects, and impressed with the work that you're doing, how you're involving the parents, using the books as the start of many more opportunities to further your work. So positive comments, but nothing to look into further.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for the positive comments. It's nice to see that everyone recognizes that it's really, really good work happening across the sector. Any questions for our two organizations that presented, or comments that you'd like to give with a voice and not just a typing in the chat? If you want to share something similar that you've done perhaps, or something that you've done a bit differently, anything that you'd like to share? If not, we'll just move on to our next inputs, and then we can learn more. Right. Sorry, before I share, I just want to make sure that we've moved on from the video, because it does seem to kind of take over that video slide. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and I wanted to find the actual stat I said, but I found it now. Only 10% of children in South Africa were recorded on the National Reading Survey last year to own more than 10 picture books. So I did want to say to Masicorp, with our investment and you're kind of matching it, you're putting your children in the top 10% of the country, which is quite incredible, before they've even entered school. So well done, and something for us all to aim for.
Indeed. Right, now we're moving on to something a little bit different, and that is how Book Dash books are used in healthcare settings. So our first presenter here is Jessica. And Jessica, I think you can introduce yourself with your many hats so that people get a sense of who you are.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you so much for giving me the platform to share some of our learnings and lessons over the last few years. I'm Jessica Renassen. Currently, you may be familiar with me working with the Dumore Foundation, but when it comes to the partnership that I've had over the last 5 years with Book Dash, it was actually a project that emerged quite organically when I was in a public health setting in rural KZN. And so today I'm actually wearing the hat of UNICEF and Department of Health, because this project was birthed out of a research project and some work that I did in a public health setting. And all of a sudden the avenues just started to open up, and I thought I'd share with some of you, just the lessons I've had as this project has developed and grown over the last few years. You can jump to the next slide. Of course, being in a public health setting, it's not always easy to get photos, because there are quite a number of restrictions around photos and consent. So depending on who the health manager is on the day and how well we communicate what we're planning to do with these photos, sometimes they're better than others. So what this project aimed to do was to link literacy with the public health facilities. And we started through the dietetics department, through clinical settings in the wards. Such an amazing opportunity to really bring life and color and books to a space that's quite hard and heavy for many of these children and their families. And a lot of the practitioners, doctors would come and comment like, what's going on here? It was quite a nice talking opportunity for us to really share the use of books for connection with families. And that was really what sparked this idea around the use of caregivers in the pediatric wards and clinics. What then happened, if you can jump to the next slide, is we got a little more ambitious and started to use the books in more clinic-based settings. Some of the cerebral palsy clinics that they hosted once a week with the children and the parents, some of the kind of maternal health workshops that they were having, and the project grew and grew, which was so amazing to see that the need was there. The role I played was really much a linkage between Book Dash and the public health facilities, because the government don't often run off these kinds of donations. I found that the departments weren't really sure what to do with the books or how to then report back beyond a statistic. And so it's been a really interesting journey actually on the M&E and reporting side, because initially it was just numbers. We handed out this many books. Great. And I think just digging down deeper into what has worked and why has been amazing. And these photos I love because, and the few points I wrote was from the OTs actually. So this year, in between 20 and 2022, we did a lot of work with the OT department, and they said that the books were easy to hold for the children, and with relatable topics, which I'm sure you'll all be nodding away. And they loved the patterns at the front and the back of the book, which I thought was so hilarious, because I'm sure that was an add-on at some point of like, we think the words are the most important, but here were practitioners saying actually they were counting, using colors, talking about shapes. And that was such amazing feedback for me from a very specific, like, niche field. The OT department for me was such a privilege to work with, because they really challenged. I'm a social worker by profession, so I'm looking for like parent linkages the whole time. And the OT department really challenged me to see the children as the core here, because they're the ones that are taking the book home. So that was also a bit of a life lesson for me. And then in the last year, basically post-COVID, we've taken the books more towards the kind of training big group sessions. What's tended to happen is they become quite nice kind of exchanges for the outreach clinics, even the outreaches beyond the clinic. So if you can jump to the next, here we go. So now we're starting to see ECD linking with healthcare, which is like the most incredible victory in my mind, that ward-based outreach teams are going to ECD centers to do growth monitoring, vitamin A, and immunization. I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about this. And dropping a book when they leave, I think, is such an amazing exchange, because often, I mean, the children are usually quite scared of the nurses in white cloaks. So there's that element, but also to give back to the centers in a way that's not just, oh, these road to health books are not up to date, like very much like punitive. And this is really like a celebration of like, thank you for partnering with us as the Department of Health. And so actually in the bottom right-hand corner, Teresa Wilson I kind of want to mention her, because she's just been the most phenomenal champion of the Book Dash work. And as Book Dash have allowed me to kind of grow this project in strange kind of ways and avenues. And I think that's really a testament to the way that Book Dash so trustingly support projects. She's been able to champion almost 95% of this work. So I am really just the liaison feedback, supporting the M&E in large. But it's just been amazing to find another champion from a DOH perspective. I actually invited her to present with me, but she had a clinic. So as you do, off you go. Anyway, so that for me was really such a story of using books in a really tough experience space, where you often have harsh environment, stress, kind of like very negative connotations. And you can see in these books, there's actually in these pictures, there's actually quite a relaxed feeling to them. Yeah, obviously a picture is not always 1,000 words, but in this case, for me, it really is exciting to see the books translating into like connection within health settings. So yeah. So as you can see, we use them in like lots of different ways, really depending on what activities are happening at the time. And the wordless books being, again, yeah, just coming out really top of the pops there from the OTs. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Also for sticking to the time limit and actually sharing some very interesting ways in which the books are used. We know some of our other partners who also work in healthcare settings or kind of work in nutrition often use the books. So they select specific titles that have to do with food and nutrition and food gardens and things like that, and they use them in their anti-stunting campaigns, where children who are growth restricted because of poor nutrition are identified, and then the families are worked with, and the books actually play a very useful role in those programs, because they're something positive, they're something fun, and they're educational, but they're not like overtly educational. So the little lessons about healthy eating and that kind of thing are built into the story, but it's first and foremost a story and very positive experience for the the children and the parents and the clinicians to share. So yeah, it's lovely to see the children in this setting with the books. It's always a bit sad when you see the kids in the hospital, but it's nice to know that the books bring a little bit of relief and a little bit of joy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also really nice to challenge the health sector to see education as a partner and not a separate entity. We're often always talking about collaboration, about integrated approaches, that education and health are closely linked. And for me, this is such a success story of seeing the value of both and watching the two fields work so beautifully together.
Thank you, and well done.
Thanks for letting me share today.
Good. So now we're moving on to our second input around healthcare, and that's from Jade, who is from New Somerset Hospital. Jade, are you with us? I can only see about 5 people at any given time.
I think I am. Sorry, I had to connect with my phone and now I can't actually see myself. So I hope you guys can hear me.
We can see you and we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if you can. Yeah, okay. Alrighty. Yeah, so my name's Jade. I work at New Somerset Hospital. I'm one of the physios. And we work quite closely in an MDT team, so closely with the OT and the speech therapists and with the pediatric wards. And so our big focus when it comes to the little ones is the first 1,000 days. And we feel very strongly about implementing the principle of the first 1,000 days and partnering with Book Dash. So just so you know, the first 1,000 days is from conception to 2 years old, and that's when the most neurological development happens for the little ones. So their brains are developing at a rapid rate, and this is really where we want to like get them with their foundation. Do you want to do the next slide? Thanks. So that's just where we are right now and what we sort of encounter, the challenges that we have. Okay, so the next slide. So maternal health is consistently the key factor that's linked to the thriving development of an infant. And in South Africa, the word maternal is almost like a placeholder for caregivers. Many times we have like an aunt or a sibling or an elder family member as the main carer. And the concept is that the baby will be taken care of and thrive if the caregiver is taken care of. If the caregiver cannot manage themselves, there'll be no capacity to care for the baby as is required. Okay, so the next slide. So the other one is parental time off. So like places like Norway and Europe and so on, they have up to 18 months off between the two primary caregivers. And recently in South Africa, there's been talk of shifting maternal leave to parental leave, but the time off remains at 4 months, now split between two primary caregivers. So this actually leads to a decreased capacity for bonding, and not to mention breastfeeding is also potentially impacted. And if the person is required to return to work, then job security is in question, which obviously has financial implications if extended time period is asked for. Okay, the next slide. So community, there's a saying that goes, raising a child takes a village, but what we have also seen is that it can be quite lonely and isolating, especially within our setting. And the caregiver is expected to be back on their feet and carrying on as normal, but yet also caring for and meeting the needs of a little one. On the other end of that is having one person within their community caring for so many little ones that quality stimulation and engagement is often difficult. Their resources are limited, and generally we see a lot of cultural influences that are embedded as for example, like the maternal role being the role who meets all the baby's needs, and as opposed to more of a family effort, if you could say it like that. And then the next slide. And then the other one is having multiple children to care for with minimal support is obviously very challenging. And time to bond with each child is limited, and often the older ones, and that's what we see often, are sent to family members in other provinces so that the one who has health challenges can be cared for more by mom or dad. But this can obviously lead to negative feelings and resentment towards the child who's perceived to be receiving all the attention, and obviously impacts the sibling bond. Okay, next slide. So yeah, we know what should be and what's ideal, and we know where we are. So how do we get from where we are to where we want to be? And that's where Book Dash came in for us. So we've got the 3E approach: education, empowerment, and early intervention. The next slide. So the education, so a big part of our intervention at all levels is education around the first 1,000 days. Parents generally want the best for their child, and when they know what is best with practical implications, it makes it easier. So Book Dash has been instrumental in creating structure for learning and creativity. One of the challenges we do face is that some of the caregivers are illiterate, but although the books are aimed at those 5 years and younger, we have seen generational learning happening when engaging with the books, which has been quite cool. Screen time limitation is crucial, but often it's what is resorted to, especially when they are in the wards. It's just easy to put like your phone up, but now at least with the books from Book Dash, they have options that it's not a screen. Okay, next slide. So our approach to empower the caregiver with the necessary skills, and again, thanks to Book Dash, with the appropriate resources. So we facilitate the elements of the first 1,000 days, and bonding is key, not only with the caregiver, but amongst the siblings and the family. And again, with the wordless books, and even not the wordless books, but it's amazing how a different story emerges each time, even though the same book is read. So it sort of just creates a space of creativity and imagination, which is inclusive of all siblings and not just the one with the health needs. And then also receiving a book to take home gives them a sense of ownership and responsibility. And hearing goes at home, I'm not sure, but when they are with us, they seem to be happy to read the book with their siblings when encouraged. So from a caregiver perspective as well, we encourage the caregivers to share what those who will be caring for their baby or involved. And we also invite all caregivers to join in with our sessions if they can. Okay, next slide. So early intervention. So it is paramount for many reasons. The sooner we intervene, the less adverse effects we experience later in life. A big one we contest with is failure to thrive. So at Somerset, we have access to little ones from birth, including premature and high-risk births, and then they often get followed up at the clinics. And so we would not have the reach that we do if we did not work so cohesively as a team, and those are at risk are screened and identified at a ward level, at a clinic level, through the ARV clinics, through PEDS outpatients and walk-ins. And often, I think that was quite interesting, is that those that have been identified as needing intervention are not always those who are attending the appointment. They're often a sibling just accompanying mom or dad or whichever it is. And then what is also helpful is we often end up in a group setting, which then facilitates peer learning as well as a safe space to share for the caregivers with their concerns and questions. And the books have been a good starting point for conversations. And then it naturally leads to other topics and conversations, and then they share their challenges and how they have navigated their challenges and so on. And all of that just starts with a book that they had in common, and then, hey, you've got this, and a conversation was born. Okay, next slide. So in summary, we have seen a massive benefit of partnering with Book Dash. So our initial hypothesis of it just being helpful for first 1,000 days was proven to be true, but it also was exceeded by the unforeseen positive outcomes with both the families and the community fostering of those who are accessing healthcare at New Somerset Hospital. So a huge thank you to Book Dash for supporting us in this endeavor. And yeah, we look forward to what the year holds. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade. Just a few comments from my side. I think what comes through, especially in the feedback from healthcare settings, is how our books are used as a tool. It sparks discussion. It's a tool for take-home exercises that we often hear that, OTs and speech therapists use the books as a tool for take-home exercises because it's concrete, exactly the point that you've just made. But the point I want to make is that, I think you should write up this as a bit of research, because you've also phrased it very nicely as, almost as a research question with a hypothesis and then the outcome. And it would definitely be very useful for us to be able to tell the story in those terms. But secondly, I think what we found, especially in healthcare partners, is you need a champion, someone who really believes that books can be used in their setting, whether they are in the speech therapy section, or whether they are physios or OTs or a pediatrician. I mean, we've got some wonderful pediatricians who are flooding the wards with Book Dash books because they find that the books kind of change the interactions with between the children and their parents when they visit, exactly what you mentioned, Jade. So, but if there's not a champion, because literacy or using books is not a core thing that you usually associate with kind of health services. If there isn't a person driving it, then it doesn't happen. And sometimes I think for us, what we would very much like to see is that those programs become slightly more embedded in the way that the institution works. And it's not so dependent on Jade or on Jessica or Mimi, but that it's actually more systemic and actually, and can be sustained, even if Jade or Jessica or Mimi were to leave, that there would still be continuity. Yeah.
So I'm very much a figurehead. I feel I'm probably the most, can I just say, admin strong with our team, which is why I've sort of driven it from that perspective. But I mean, our ARV clinic runs independently, and we just when they need, we've got the storage to keep the books, and then as they need more, we bring them more. We have noticed that we can't actually leave them out. We actually have to give it to them, otherwise they just disappear. So we do sort of manage it in that way. But I mean, our PEDS team is amazing, and like I said, it's just that I think is what's so crucial, is that I'm there, like the chief physio is there, the OT, the speech, we're all driving it with all our outpatients. And so it's I don't think it would last for a team effort, to be honest. So you're just seeing my face, but all of us are.
Fine. We understand you represent a team, but still, I think there is someone managing those books, because I think everyone can identify with that. If suddenly 15,000 books are delivered, or however many, that is quite a management task. And to know how many you've handed out and how many are left over, and what can you do, and can you give more books now, or do you need to space it out more? I think that in itself requires headspace. So that's great. Jessica, that's a question.
I actually just wanted to echo and confirm some of that feedback around storage, to the point that actually we asked, the last 2 drops weren't delivered to the hospital because we actually had some issues with storage in one of the years around the COVID year, and the books do then find interesting pathways, and we want to be accountable with our donation, and be able to support the training or whatever the support is necessary. So it's been a learning for us around storage and distribution. So very similar learnings there.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is something to actually take on board as a recipient of donated books, is that managing it and accounting for it is as important as the book's being used, almost. Julia, do you want to share anything from the chat?
I think the only thing, Jackie from Hatch Foundation found the concept of the content of the stories also being helpful for a kind of catalyst or a starting point for education around nutrition and stunting and talking about those things. I think thinking about the layers of how you can use the content of the stories, and it's not only the story, but you could take a scene or an illustration and work from that. And then another, I think it was actually Jade who echoed Jessica's point that came from the OTs around the value of the end papers or the kind of pattern pages. They're not all as sophisticated, but and I shared that they do have a formal name in publishing. They're called end papers, and they're often seen as quite a luxury, or like and so it's wonderful for us to hear that they have value from a kind of development point of view. And I think just to the people who haven't already discovered that value or aren't already using that when you do your ECD practitioner training or parent training, to point that out and play with that and see what you can build on that. That might be a nice lesson to take away from today.
They're often filled with the most wonderful countable and color objects. The idea from a publishing perspective of those pattern pages, those end papers, is that it's almost like the curtain at a show, so the curtain is down and then it raises, you've got the story, and then the same curtain drops again at the end of the story. So it kind of also helps to announce the beginning and the end. And that's why we include them. And also because they're beautiful. And also because the creative teams who make the books, often they just love making those end papers. So it seems to be positive all around. Right. Any further questions to our two healthcare reps who presented? If not, we can move on to our next session. I'm just going to share my screen again. Good. So now we are going to look at Book-Books in home visiting programs. And for us, this is an area that seems to be becoming more and more important. I think as there's general acknowledgement in our society, even by politicians, that the first preschool years are so important, and that stimulation and early development, and that those topics are actually starting to emerge in the kind of general discussions that we're having in South Africa. For us, it's very, very positive. And we are seeing that many of our partners are branching out and including a kind of a home visiting program as part of the services that they offer to a community. So for us, it's lovely to hear from our next organization, Project Literacy, and we're going to have Lungile and Yondela presenting to us. Are you guys ready?
Yes, we are. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, Bookdash. We are excited to be part of the family as Project Literacy. If you can please move on to the next slide. Yes, that's the community that we work with in terms of Run Home to Read. The project manager, field worker, reading champions that are trained, that are youth that are employed and trained from the communities with the minimum metric, who then feed on to our families. Please move on to the next slide. I just need to give a bit of a background of who Project Literacy is and what it is that we do. So our organization is a nonprofit company, and we were established in 1973. So we're turning 51 years old this year. We are accredited by the ETD to offer ETD courses, short courses, as well as full qualifications for ABET practitioners. We're also accredited with Umalusi to offer your ABET band course, that's NQF level 1. And we also do FLC, which is a foundational learning competency training that is assessed by the IEB. And as Project Literacy, we were traditionally known to be catering for adults, but over the years, we've sort of positioned ourselves to become an organization that caters for those who actually fall between the cracks. outside of the formal schooling environment. So be it adults that never had an opportunity to go to school, youth who've dropped out of school early because of whatever circumstances. And from 2006, through our ECD program, the Run Home to Read program, where we cater for children whose parents cannot really afford or they don't have access to early childhood development centers. So in 2006, we then launched Run Home to Read, which is a family literacy program that is mainly focused in rural or peri-urban areas by involving parents and caregivers who could be the auntie or gogo, whoever is looking after those children, to develop their children's early literacy skills in order that they can make the most of their formal education at school while they develop their children's early literacy skills at home in their own languages. That's very important for us. So we use the indigenous languages, and that's where the biggest fit is for us with Book Dash, because their titles speak directly to how we've sort of positioned our activity books, as well as our Run Home to Read caregiver manual. It works the same. It's got graded books, the wordless books, and then it moves on to having one word. So you sort of build on the child's imagination. You build on their cognitive skills. As they grow between the ages, we cater for 3 to 7 year olds. So at entry level, at 3 years, we sort of use the elementary levels. The titles of books where you just build on the imagination with the wordless books, or the other ones with 1 or 2 words, and it builds. So as I've mentioned, we do employ reading champions that then are trained by Project Literacy, who then support families as they show the children how to learn and read. If we move on to the next slide. So the additional aims of the project is to develop the childcare and the parenting skills. We also focus on other areas like gender-based violence. We are in people's homes, and it's easier for us to engage with them directly in terms of societal issues, healthcare, and whatever we can offer to them in terms of parenting skills, and other like paraffin safety. We also focus a lot on bullying and other things that then help them to be more confident when dealing with the formal systems. So with us aim to empower caregivers to be involved in their children's education from a very early age, to improve their own levels of literacy, and to feel more empowered when dealing with the government officials and the schooling system for when the child is then registered onto the next phase, which is the formal schooling system. If you can move on to the next slide. So our biggest breakthrough project came through in 2023 when we were awarded the big Presidential Youth Employment Initiative program that was rolled out by the Development Bank of South Africa through partnerships with the National Youth Development Agency and the National Youth Service, where Project Literacy partnered with Seriti Institute, which is an ECD NPO like us, and then there were 4 other ECD NPCs that also were part of that big project. We were to train 3,000 out of school youths who were unemployed to become our ECD practitioners. Project Literacy was given about 900 of those youths, and we were able to sustain about 766 of those youths to see through the program. And through them, after they were trained, we were then able to recruit about 2,300 families that were then adopted onto the Run Home to Read project. And as you know, with social employment projects, most of the money is aligned or budgeted for actually taking care of the stipends that the youths, we are talking about unemployed youths, and we know the issue about unemployment in the country. So the biggest budget was that. We were also given a small budget for training these ECT youths to become our practitioners. And there was absolutely no budget for the learning materials that we were supposed to use to roll out this project. So that's where Book Dash came in for us, because we were actually introduced to Book Dash by the Jim Joel Fund back in 2018, as well as recommendations by the Oppenheimer Memorial Trust, who were one of our funders at the time. And really our partnership grew in 2020, when we had the IDT project, where we also were given a huge number of reading champions that we had to train in the Free State province. The fact that their titles are available in all indigenous languages make it easier for us to be able to adopt them onto our model and our curriculum in terms of Run Home to Read. They are a perfect fit for us. So it was a natural transition for us to be able to use them fully. We didn't use any of the Kagiso titles because, I mean, we don't have publishing rights for those. So we were able to fit them onto our activity books, and the families were happy to use them. They found them easy to relate to, and the reading champions were also thriving using them. I'm just going to rope in Yondela now to give you more specific details on how they were actually used, these titles, the Book Dash titles, during the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative project. Yondela, over to you.
Thank you, Sissy, and good day to everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. Wow, Book Dash wow, I don't even know where to begin. I'm impressed by how other organizations as well have actually been able to use the books differently to us. We, however, because we work within communities, not like in institutions, have had to find different ways on how to get the books shared within the community, especially because most of the community members or other communities where we work in, we have informal ECD centers, no clinics, no ECD centers at all, or there's no formal education systems around. So we use books in homes, as Osis Lungile has said, and we've partnered with local ECD, even though they're informal. We shared the books with them, where we requested them to be our libraries within the communities, so that community members can come in and borrow and exchange books, because we didn't have enough for the entire country to share with every family. So we had to find ways of actually getting more people to access the books. We share them in clinics, like when they have immunization days, and where we get our reading champions to go do storytelling. In SASA queues, in Department of Home Affairs queues, they get there and then they like start reading books and sharing books, and how the parents can get involved in developing their children's educational side of life. And we have the after-school programs where we assist children that are battling in schools on how to read and actually write, by exposing them to the Dash books as well, because they are more simpler for them to actually decipher and understand. And the picture books for me were very important, because you get them to speak their language, comprehend their own stories, and align what they're telling to their own societies, and how they and then, you know, like there's a linkage on what they see and how they are raised. So it's different stories from different areas within the same books. And we've used it as incentives in our Read for Understanding campaign, which we hosted monthly, where the best reader could take a certain number of books home, and then we turn them into our own little reading champions within the communities, where other kids could visit their homes, and then they share the stories, read to each other, and then they help each other read the books. So they become our little librarians within the community. So our Read for Understanding campaigns will have an NPO that does child immunization, an NPO that focuses on nutrition, an NPO that focuses on drug abuse, an NPO, like it varies in different communities, which NPOs that are there. So we invite all the NPOs to come share, but at the center of it all will be our reading competitions that actually allow the kids to share the books. So we had to use those books because that's what we had on hand, and it's what the children related with. And it's what parents also used, because most of the parents we work with are also illiterate parents. So it was easier for them to actually adapt the program and not be intimidated by words, because they're illiterate and some are illiterate, so they tend to get scared once you introduce them to books. But once we got them
Mandela,
to...
sorry, I'm just saying, please finish off. We've overshot our time on this presentation quite a bit, so it's very interesting, but we do have others to, so if you can just finish off. Thank you.
No, actually, that's just about it. That was just about it, Dorit. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you so much, Dorit.
Feels very rude to interrupt, especially when it's so interesting, but we have our agenda. So yeah, I think it's incredible to hear how the books are used in different contexts. I just wanted to make one comment before we go on to our next input, and that is that the unemployed youth, like your reading champions, is something that we see quite often with many of our partner organizations, that they are used very specifically as reading champions, reading support, reading assistance, reading, doing kind of family visitation programs, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure whether that project is continuing, whether the presidential initiative is continuing. But if it is, it's something for organizations to at least explore. I think it's not easy because you have to manage all these unemployed youth, and I know that comes with quite a high management cost in terms of time and systems and things like that. But I think it's a wonderful initiative, and we've had very positive feedback from several organizations who've been able to build this into their programs. Yeah. So keep comments and questions until we get to the end of our next presentation. Yeah, that's a beautiful photograph from Project Literacy still. So our next input around home visiting programs is from Tree. We've got Sinkobile. Or is it Sinkobile?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good.
I'm here. It's Sing.
I think we've lost you. No, we can hear you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dorit. Good morning, everyone. So I am Singobile Kuboni from Tree, and we use the Book Dash books in our home visiting program. Thank you, Dorit. Can I have the next slide? So our home visiting program at Tree extends ECD services into homes, especially rural and underserved communities where there's no access or limited access to quality ECD programs. So we target children from birth to 2 years. Our operational areas are in Sentokhou, which is in KwaZulu-Natal in the Midlands. We have Flagstaff in the Eastern Cape, and we have Musina, which is in Limpopo. And the primary home languages of these areas is isiZulu, isiXhosa, and Chivenda, respectively. The target age group is birth to 2 for the home visiting program, but depending on the community that we find ourselves, we do end up having children that are up to 4 years old, because there actually aren't even any ECD centers in the area either. Thank you, Dorit. Next slide, please. Home facilitators, family facilitators. The family facilitators are the ones that go door to door, family to family. They each have 15 families that they've registered to themselves. We have about 60 family facilitators across our three areas. And so books are distributed to the family facilitators, and they ensure that the children receive their home language and a wordless book, especially at this age. The family facilitators introduce the books to the caregivers and the children during their play sessions. In their play sessions, children are, the family facilitators do bring a lot of toys, different types of toys that they engage with, and then of course a book. And then they read the book together with the caregiver and the child, making sure that the caregiver knows how to interact with the child with the book. And then once the family facilitator is done with the session, they leave the book at home. Whereas with our other toys that the family facilitator takes to the homes, we don't leave those toys in the home. We use them to take care of every single child throughout the program. But the books, there are so many, and there's enough for every child to own one. So they are left with the child in the home, and then they are used on the next visit. Some children by now that have been with us for a few years, they've got about 4 books already per child. Some will only have 2. It just depends on how long they've been in the program and when they exit the program, depending on their age. Thank you, Doreen. Next slide. And just in these pictures, it's either you'll see the family facilitator or you'll see a parent that's reading the book with her children. In some of the homes, you'll see that there's a large group of children because the children follow the family facilitator when they see her walking past to visit another family. And in some instances, it's just the one child or the 2 children that belong in that household. So this is just some of the information or some of the remarks that we've heard from parents. They say that they love that the owning of the books, it makes them feel proud to have items that belong to their own children. It makes them feel proud to write the name of the child on that very first page where it says this book belongs to. They love having the ability to write that, their child's name in there. The wordless books are a favorite to caregivers in our communities because they love the stories that are created by their children. And they're surprised by their children's imaginations, especially caregivers of 2-year-olds. They're always surprised to say, I actually didn't even know that my child could speak so much about just pictures. And some of them are gogos, and so reading wasn't really something that they are completely familiar to, especially reading of storybooks. The parents are beginning to understand the role they play in their children's literacy development from a young age. They can see the difference that they are having between if the family facilitator is in the home once every 2 weeks, between that gap, they are reading with their children often, and they are able to see the experience. They love the experience. They're able to see the growth in their child. They're able to see the difference in their child's language, and they love that they can read their home language because English is not always something that the parents are able to read fluently. But the Xhosa books or the Tshivenda book is something that they are able to read for their children. They enjoy watching their children flipping the pages. We have children that are 6 months old in this program that are already owning a book. So it's going on their mouth, and it's also being put upside down and turned over and opened, and the pages are being flipped this way and flipped that way. So the parents really enjoy that their 6-month-old child may not be saying anything, but they're pointing and they are turning the books in all sorts of different directions. And then the books have improved their bond with their children. The children show their books to all their family members. There's fathers and grandfathers that are always working outside in the yard, and children are showing them, look, there's a chicken in my book. There's a dog in my book, and there's a dog in the house. And it's exciting that the children, they don't care who wants to read, who doesn't want to read. They're showing the book to everyone that they live with because they're so proud of what they're owning. And so it's different. It's fathers and grandfathers are telling us it's very difficult to ignore this child that just keeps showing me this book, that's shoving this book in my face, that I end up sitting and reading with them. And in rural communities, it's not a big thing for males to engage in learning with such young children. So that's been our experience of Book Dash, and we've loved it. We love when we visit the homes with our family facilitators. We love seeing the excitement and the use of the book. You can see when a child is used to something and when a child has just been given something because you're arriving. So we love seeing that the children actually really do own the books. The books are dirty because they're touching sand and they're flipping through the books as well. The books are being read outside, and we love to see the interaction is really real. And we're hoping that we'll be able to tell when they're in grade R1, 2, and 3, the difference that we've made from the time they were 2 years old. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's really wonderful. It's such a lovely page, this one, with the kind of what the parents and the caregivers say about the role of the books in their families and what they see through it. It's really very encouraging. That's exactly what we would like to see happening in families, where the books are not seen as some kind of luxury item that the children can't touch, but that it's accessible to them, that they can work with it, that they put it in their mouths when they're little, that they read it outside. It's an object to treasure, but also to use and to love. And I think for us, that is absolutely part of our vision. So it's very encouraging to hear that. Thank you so much, Ububele. That was a very heartwarming input for me. Julia, is there anything in the chat before we open it to questions?
No, people are very inspired by, I think it's part of the purpose of these sessions is to see the diversity and the reach and the different nature of partnerships. And hopefully your minds are also thinking, oh, I could do that, I could do that. So very inspired by the, by the reach and the impact, I think, of the books.
Okay, wonderful. And are there any questions perhaps that you'd like to ask now of Project Literacy or of TREE about how they run these home visiting projects, anything like that? Doesn't have to be 100% book related. If you also have just questions about how they run the projects and the programs, for instance, because I think, oh, there's a reader, a young reader who's just joined us. Sure.
I think, Director, if I could say something, it's the fact that it's just involving everyone. And I think she also mentioned towards the end the role of the father. And like often they're not involved, and they have no choice now. And it's so special involving everyone, which is, it's really great.
Yeah, it is interesting. We've often heard from our partners saying that the children kind of create this demand for being read to. They insist at home because they like the story so much and they know the stories, and that at home they like force their caregivers or their grandfather or their sibling or whatever. And I think that is it's wonderful because it's kind of a demand-driven situation that's going on.
I mean, Dorette, if I may.
Yondela?
Yeah. Can't then Dish Books like partner with your radio stations where we create a challenge for the children to have like reading sessions of the Dish Books? Children tend to find it more, I don't know, they like competing with each other. If you hear another child read better than you, then you also want to try and read better and tell the story more better than the previous person. So
yes,
I don't know, maybe that could be the next step for us. All these FPOs here.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that's best driven from your side, actually, because, the people in this room today are all rooted in their communities. They know exactly what are the radio stations that people are listening to. We create the resources for you to use. And I think something like having children on a radio station, I know it's happened in another project where some of our books are used, and there was a lot of hype in the community around the kids actually going to the studio and reading and that kind of thing. So I think it's a wonderful idea and it has been done, but I think it would definitely best be driven by you. We would not do a good job. Okay, I think we're going to move on to our final session. So I'm going to just share my screen again. Here we go. Okay, you can all see my screen. So this is a discussion session, but I just wanted to remind you what it's about. It's about And this is actually drawn directly from a feedback that we got from one of our partners saying that Book-Books have helped to strengthen family literacy practices and foster meaningful interactions between family members. We've heard quite a bit of that today, but this is a discussion around, how not only the literacy skills are nurtured, but also emotional bonds. So we'd love to hear from you in this session about what you've observed, what insights you've had, but to set us like in the right frame of mind, we're going to have an input from Ububele, who is one of our partners, and Sinikiwe is going to present on Ububele's work, just as an introduction to the last discussion. Sinikiwe, are you with us and are you ready?
Thank you, Dorette. Thank you so much. When you first checked the agenda, I was like, yo, it's so packed. Oh my goodness, will I focus? But it's just been so insightful to listen to everybody's presentation. Thank you so much. Will you share my presentation on the screen?
Yes, it's up on my side. It will come through on your side now. I think things are a little bit slow.
Yes, I can see it now. Thank you. Thank you so much. So at Ububele, our full name is Ububele Educational and Psychotherapy Trust. And basically what we all about, we are a mental health organization. We serve mainly the community of Alexandra. And our offices are very close. We are in Q, which is just outside Alexandra. In Johannesburg, and what our mission is, or what we try to kind of change, if you can move to the next slide, please, Dorette, is to really promote secure and healthy attachment between caregivers and their young children, from birth or even from pregnancy. And why we interested in this is because research is showing us that children or babies who have secure and healthy attachment, healthy relationships with their caregivers are more, open to learning. Their brain development is much better, and of course they then do better later in life in terms of school and career, but also in terms of relationships with their own children and with others in their lives. So we have different parenting programs that we do with the caregivers living in Alexandra, and I'll tell you a bit once we have the next slide. Thank you. Correct. So what we've learned from our communities, that one, having storytelling has been part of the communities or families culture, and without books, before books, but storytelling, telling children's stories has been a culture for quite some time. But also that we've learned from our book distribution that actually parents really value actual books, physical books. We go to the clinics twice a week, to different clinics. We have we work with all clinics in Alexandra, and we do advocacy and talks at these clinics at least twice a week. And you talk and talk and talk when you share your messages, but the moment you take out books, you have most people's attention. So we've used, kind of that, the love for storytelling and the love for books and value for books, to kind of facilitate conversations with the parents to say, let's take a step back, and to say, okay, it's great that we tell stories, it's great that we love books, but there's something else that we need to be kind of mindful of before we facilitate the learning that we want in our children, which is then this healthy and secure attachment that I talked about earlier. And we do this by actually just encouraging a parent to, when sharing a story or a book with the child, to kind of follow their child's lead, So checking what is my child interested in when we are sharing the book. Is it the bed? Is it the ball? What is it? And using that to kind of and really letting the child take a lead in terms of what they're interested in, and looping into that when they then tell the story. If it's a pictureless book, which they love, but really focusing on what the child is interested in, and again promoting the quality time and having fun while sharing a book, because in that way then parents will be able to bond their children better with their babies better, and children will learn that my emotions really matter, what I think, what I like matters, and in that way this trust that we want between the caregiver and their child is built and strengthened. And then again, when children have, secure relationships with their caregivers, when they know there's somebody who cares for them, who loves them, who listens to them, who responds to their needs, who really cares overall, their brain is then more open to capturing the new words, to learning the new words, and so on and so on. So really encouraging parents to work on that beautiful foundation of having a healthy, and then working on telling them stories so that they can learn, and so on. You can give me the next slide, Dorette, the last one. And then so we have, again, different ways that we do this. So we do advocacy at these clinics that I just spoke about. And again, with our advocacy, the main thing is advocating for the baby, for the child, that this is someone who has feelings, this is someone who can think, who has a brain that is growing, and you can do so much as a parent to help this play a story, but also focus on building a relationship with them. And so at Ububele, we also have a Vuna parenting club, which is WhatsApp based. We share psychoeducational messages with the parents, and we go to the clinics again on a weekly basis to recruit parents to join our Vuna WhatsApp club. And again, one of the main ways that we get everybody's attention is to have these books displayed and talking about the value of building a relationship with the child using books. And then book sharing groups, training groups, which you also do with caregivers with babies under the age of 2. And then our home visiting program. So our home visiting program it can be up to 14 weeks. And again, there are different visits that our home visitors do with the caregivers in the home. But home visits end, like I'm saying, that they last for only 14 weeks. And we always want something that we can leave with the family to say that this is one way, this is one thing that you can use to continue implementing whatever you were learning with your home visitor. And again, books, yeah, they really value the books. And even in our feedback, when we call them and ask, about how you're doing now, what did you learn from the program? There's always something that they share about the books. And then we also have a preschool in-house. So there is a book sharing hour with our preschool learners and our preschool teachers. Also value sharing these books again with our learners at the preschool. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you very much for that input, Sinikiwe. I think it's put us in the right frame of mind to now have a discussion around books and families and ties, because what you do at Ububele places that at the core of the work that you do. I think in some of our other projects that are more specifically educational, this is a new kind of aspect to explore. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I think the work you do is really amazing, especially as it becomes clearer and clearer that a child can really only learn when they have that responsive caregiving from a very young age, and they feel secure and they've got strong attachments and strong relationships. So thank you very much for sharing that. And so now I'd like to open the floor to whoever would like to share with us how they've seen the Book Books kind of foster family relationships or help families to become, you know, to have literacy activities at home more than they used to. So just any insights that you've had from the kids that you work with, or their parents, or from your practitioners. You can put your electronic hand up, or you can just start speaking.
Good morning, everyone. It's afternoon.
Hello.
Afternoon, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, it's Kate here from Somerset Educare Trust.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. You can speak, Kate.
Okay, yes, it's Kate from Somerset Educare Trust. We struggled a lot to participate here because our network is very, very poor this side.
Sorry about that.
Yes, I would like to share some experiences that we got from our practitioners, mostly because we are working with ECD centers.
Yes,
mostly
go ahead.
when we enter the centers, asking about the books from the book dash, children will just like, yes, I know this one, you know. Children will start telling their stories, telling you, elaborating, you know, like in a fun way. Even when we attend the ECD centers, we are having a program here we call caregiver learning through play, whereby we are working with parents, directly with parents. We are giving them trainings on literacy. So parents will like, where are other books? Our children are enjoying these books a lot at home. You must keep on giving us some storybooks. Now we can hear our children being free to tell some of the stories to us. These books are really helpful in because the area we're working in is a rural area here in our area. So we can see now children are enjoying books. The love of books are reinforced to the practitioners, also to the parents. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Thank you, Kate. I think that that's very encouraging, is that parents are also wanting more books and seeing the value of reading together with their children. That's wonderful to hear. Anyone else? We've got Jackie. Yes, your hand is up. You're welcome to speak.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear.
Okay. So I work with the Tula Baba project in the Western Cape, and we have received some feedback from the clinics because we work more with the clinics and the big hospitals, the MOUs. We got some feedback from the clinics, from the sisters themselves. The parents are bringing their children more for immunizations and being checked. Like in the areas where we support, parents don't take their children for immunizations and checkups and stuff. But now that we give them something in return, they bring them more. Thank you.
That's amazing. It's books as rewards for many things, and I think it's such a positive reward to give.
And they even ask for more.
Yes, wonderful. It actually links with one of the organizations that we were inspired by, which is called Reach Out and Read. They are it's an American organization where they build books into kind of the primary healthcare of children in the first few years. And every time where that program is implemented, every time a child comes in for an immunization or for a checkup, the doctor also prescribes reading to the parents, to the children, so that it kind of gets built in. So it's lovely to hear from local organizations where that also happens. Thank you for sharing, Jackie.
Jackie also put something very interesting in the chat. I don't know if you want to share that, Jackie, about the kind of extension of book clubs. But I see Rosemary also wants to talk, so maybe.
Yeah, let's hear from Rosemary and then we can come back to you, Jackie. Rosemary?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, really good to be here. So one of the ways that we distribute Book Dash books is through our parent workshops, which is with preschool aged, the parents of preschool aged children. And we use the analogy for the whole workshop around the three-legged pot and that importance of the relationship between the parent and the child and the parent and the teacher. But we try and emphasize, we don't always need resources and things to develop that. But it is really nice, and we do always give parents a take-home kit, and obviously Book Dash books are part of that recently. And sort of inherent in that, you can see the parents' excitement that, they've got something tangible that they can go and then share with their child, and it kind of, it needs a two-way interaction. So I think, yeah, they're always very excited to have something tangible to take home, to share with their children, and to be able to be part of that journey with their children. So I think that was what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Rosemary. Yes, I think it's someone else earlier on, or it's a quote that we included in the presentation, said, it's no good telling people or parents that they should interact more with their children and read to their children if there are no books at home. So I think this is just kind of closing the loop to say, well, now you've got something. And so it's something quite fun, and it's something that's it's not hard work. It's actually very pleasurable for both parents and children. Jackie from Tulababa, Julia mentioned your comment in the chat, so let's go on back to you.
Yes. So at Tulababa Project, we started like a teen mom club. So it's like different teens from different areas. So we host like parties and stuff for them because they can't afford. It's like more like baby showers and stuff. So we pack them a small pack. In the pack, there's baby stuff and 3 Book Dash books. So after we saw that, we felt a need to make a book club so that the moms will get together and swap around books. So we gave them novels we collected as donations. So we gave each one so that when they finish, they should swap around. So it's like now an ongoing thing. We collect books, we give them new ones, and they swap around. So it's more like almost a support system as well, because they can share their journeys of motherhood and stuff. Yeah, so we were inspired by your books. We love them.
That's a wonderful idea. A teen mom book club support net. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to share some insights and practices with us? Janine, yes.
Hi, thank you for organizing this meeting, and it's also positive. It's amazing. I wish my whole team could be here to hear all this. And the books, thank you so much for responding. Last year we had a discussion and you came to visit us, and we talked about the more theme-based books, and there's definitely been a shift, and I saw that beautiful platform you put up. So we're quite excited when funding comes in to order more books, specifically to go into the ECD centers theme-based. But yeah, as I mentioned in the comment, there hasn't much been said about the digital books, and we use it. It's such an invaluable resource to us to add to the ELPs, to our early learning program that is digital, and it's available for free for anybody in the country, but also worldwide. And because the founder, Leanne Keith, her whole aim is towards an African approach, something that works for the people here, and it's relatable, and your books so beautifully slot into that whole theme. And it's so easy for us to add on the links, and it just works. So thank you very, very much for that. So as much as we love the physical books, and it will always be our first love, the digital, it is the way we're going. We've even got we rolled out a new project where 10 of our principals or our schools have received tablets, and they're using that in the classroom for doing their planning and doing visuals with the kids. And the books are very much being used on a tablet for reading, where because the themes change every 2 weeks, we don't always have all the books to give them, but the digital version is there. So it's very encouraging. Thank you so much. It's amazing.
Thanks, Janine, for that input. It's so lovely to hear that sometimes the electronic books or the electronic versions, the digital versions, are used to supplement the physical books. And I think it's certainly something that other partners can also look into. I also want to say that you have Zanri to thank for the themes. It was a big project where she actually classified all our books according to common ECD themes. And we got input from many of you in this room about what themes do you often use in your program. So we're all very happy about the fact that A, the books were classified, and B, that you can now search per theme on our website. So you can search, if you don't know, you can search on our website for stories per language. So you can look at all the Chivenda books that are available. You can also search per theme. So if you're specifically interested in books about animals or emotions, you can search according to that as well. And it is a fantastic resource to supplement physical books, especially if you want to really hook children and families into reading. Unfortunately, our website is not 0 rated. It used to be during COVID that you used no data when you read books on our website, but that came to an end after the lockdown restrictions were lifted. But it's not data heavy, that I can say. Thank you very much for that, Janine. That's useful. Jackie, another Jackie from the Hatch.
Yeah, the other one. That's also baby bags. Julia and I have just been having a chat about the digital versions. Just because, and this is anecdotally, it's not something we've run out done through Hatch, but there's so many books available online. But obviously, because they are the print versions that are being shared so that partners can print and distribute, some of them are 10, 15 megabytes in size. So the actual size of the PDF, if you want to forward it around, is still quite big. So what I've been doing is downloading them, and then just also the ease of them all being clustered together, rather than having to go in folder by folder by folder. You could just have like the low-res versions, which are not for partners, but for parents. And just dump all of each language in together, and then you could actually just share that, and someone could go there and have access to, I think it's like 200 books or something now. How many? I mean, that's incredible.
Yes, 200 exactly.
Yeah, and people do use their phones to show things to their kids. They are using it for YouTube and games and stuff. So it's an amazing way to be able to get the whole stable of books out to people.
Mm-hmm.
You can even have on the back of the book, and each language book, say, find more English books at /English, find more, Afrikaans books / and per language, so that someone could actually go online from the book and download them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think it's a useful way of thinking about it, is to cluster by language or to, per theme or whatever, to make it more easily accessible for the parents or whoever you want
and
to.
Low res. Must be low res, because also the phones that are being used are not like 200 gigabyte phones. They have minimal storage capacity. So anything that's sent to a parent must be quite low res. And you've got more content, so it's just easy to like spread it like wildfire.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So do you send them the low res PDFs basically?
Yeah, so I would download your PDF, but some of that, but they're not low res. So I've just been downloading them and WhatsApping them. But then obviously the parent has to be in Wi-Fi to download them because of the file size. And then usually they have to delete them because when they go on to the next book, they start running out of space. I suppose I could just put them into a compressor. There's websites that just compress PDFs, but to do 200 would be time consuming. But yeah, you can just compress the PDFs. That would maybe be an easier solution. Yeah, and then I just send them, and then they've got brand new books constantly. I'll do like 10 a month or something to read with the children.
That's great. That's wonderful. And thanks for the note about the fact the files are big. I think it's something that we can certainly, as we go forward, just keep in mind and kind of think about.
You just do two versions. When you export, you do your print ready version, and then you just do a super low res one for distribution to parents, and keep them folded separately so that no one gets confused.
Yeah, no, it's useful to know that is a need.
Yeah.
So thank you for formulating that. Yeah.
I'm just keen to get them up there.
People, there is 1 minute left, and I see some of you are excusing yourselves already. So, except if there's someone who has a burning matter that they want to share, I'm going to say thank you very much for being here and for being engaged and for participating and for sharing insights and for just, yeah, I think the level of engagement, it's been fantastic. Thank you for all our presenters for taking the time to think through the core of what you want to share with us, and for all of you for the amazing work that you do. So I think I want to wish you a lovely Valentine's Day going forward, and we'll see each other again, because in the not too distant future, we'll hopefully be sending you books again. And so we'll continue with these sessions because they are very, very useful to us. Therefore, we're going to continue organizing them. Thanks, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Say on here, Jared. I just want to make sure we save all the chat and everything like that.
Yes. We're staying on. Definitely.
We have lost Lottie though.
Lottie's not staying on.
I think we might need to also.
Hi, will you be sharing the recording? Because I'd
Yes,
like to
we
share
will.
with the rest of my team that wasn't able to make it.
We will. Yeah, definitely.
Amazing. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Jackie. Cheers. Bye. And our other Jackie. Did you say Jackie? Okay. Might have to ask Lindia to leave. I think yeah. I don't know why. I swear.
I've just
Also, let me stop the recording.